Okay. Call to order for tonight's meeting of June 15th, 2021. Kathleen Allen.
Here.
Tom Chapa.
Here.
Heather Del Conte.
Here.
Pamela Dowd.
Here.
Lisa Glidden.
Here.
James McKenzie.
Here.
Linda Serino.
Here.
Zeta Olson,
Here.
and we have a guest tonight, Sean Onmet.
Aye.
Welcome.
If I could move motion that the Board of Education move to an executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations. Could I have a motion?
Move it.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You may move to executive session.
Here.
Oh, okay. If I could have a motion to return to regular session, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
Second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Next is the floor to the public. There's one item for tonight from Mr. Neelish Shah from 2992 State Route 48. What are the plans to allow the community organization to once again access the pool facilities this summer? Oswego City School District has had a strong relationship with both the Oswego YMCA and the Oswego Lake or Swim Club in the past, and both of these organizations are in need of access to a pool. Mexico has successfully opened their pool to the community in the Mexico Tiger Sharks. As recently stated in the Pale Times, the Oswego community has not defeated a school budget in over 20 years, showing strong support for the Oswego City School District. It is time that the Oswego City School District once again begin working with the community. Next is the Board of Education. 3 items. First item, that the Board of Education hereby approves and ratifies the attached memorandum of agreement with the Oswego Association of Administrative Personnel for a new collective bargaining agreement from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. If I could have a motion. Could I have a motion?
Move it.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? And this one is a roll call vote, so Kathleen.
Alright,
Wait,
Yeah.
I think there might be discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so I know negotiations are always a give and take. These processes are long and involved. But I don't think this AAP contract has gotten to where it should be. I think that we should ask Dr. Kelvin to go back to the table and work on some things for the long-term interests of the district. So I'm not in favor of this, and so that's my 2 cents.
Any other discussion? I will move to roll call vote at this time. Kathleen Allen,
No.
Tom Chapa,
No.
Heather Del Conte,
No.
Pamela Dowd,
No.
Lisa Glidden,
No.
James McKenzie,
No.
Linda Serino.
Yes.
The resolution has failed 6-1. Next item. Just one moment. That the Board of Education hereby approves and ratifies the attached memorandum of agreement with the Oswego Classroom Teachers Association for a new collective bargaining agreement from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. Could I have a motion?
Move it.
Second,
I'll second it.
any discussion? This will go, oop, I'm sorry.
I guess if I spoke at the last one, I guess I gotta say something, right? I would want to thank all the negotiators on this. I do think this is a fair contract that benefits all the parties involved. So I want to thank you, and I'll be voting in support.
Okay. Kathleen Allen,
Yes.
Tom Chapa,
Yes.
Heather Del Conte,
Yes.
Pamela Dowd,
I'm abstaining due to the fact that I have family members that are covered under this contract, but I do support the contract.
Lisa Glidden,
Yes.
James McKenzie,
Yes.
Linda Serino.
Yes.
The resolution has passed 6-0-1 with an abstain by Pamela Dowd. The next one is that the Board of Education hereby approves the amendment to the employment agreement of the superintendent of schools, Dr. Mathis A. Calvin III, as attached. Could I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Move to a roll call vote. Kathleen Allen,
No.
Tom Chapa,
Yes.
Heather Del Conte,
Yes.
Pamela Dowd,
Yes.
Lisa Glidden,
Yes.
James McKenzie,
Yes.
Linda Sereno.
Yes.
Resolution has passed 6-1. Next is the superintendent's report with Dr. Calvin.
All right. Dan, if you could just kind of pull up the screen there with the information from the PowerPoint. Thank you. Good evening, board. I think we'd like to start as we have the last couple of meetings with some highlights on our students. Go ahead, Dan. First tonight, I'd like to start by highlighting one of our track students. He's a senior, Benjamin Lewis, and Benjamin was recently honored on News Channel 9 as the Athlete of the Week. Some of you may have seen him on the news. Really proud of Ben and really all of our athletes across the district. I want to congratulate him for sure. Not only is he a good student, but he's also a great athlete. Recently, Ben was one of 2 individuals, by the way, who was crowned as a Section 3 champion for 400-meter run with a season best run of 52.07. We also had a junior by the name of Ethan LaCastro. Certainly want to mention him as well in the 400-meter intermediate hurdles with a personal best time of 59.88. Both of these students we certainly would like to recognize, and Benjamin, certainly we wanted to just make sure we highlighted him as well. So congratulations, both of you, for your section wins. Go ahead, Dan.
Mathis, I'm sorry, the boys have one relay team that were sectional champions also they should be mentioned.
Also want to recognize them as well. Congratulations to all of our section champions with track and field. Very, very good, great outcomes this year. Very proud of all of you. Second of all, tonight, I wanted just to congratulate a number of our students. We are currently involved in a lot of year-end events. Last night was a great evening. The district awarded over $1 million worth of scholarships to students. I believe it was $1,075,000. And we had a lot of students out last night who we celebrated at the high school. The middle school recently had an awards get together as well. Today I was at Kingsford Park for one of their 6th grade spotlight celebrations. Lots of great things happening across the district. And this is just one ceremony I went to last week. This is 2 of our students were congratulated for their great work that they've done over in one of our programs out at City. Isaiah Kramer and Leon House III. Very proud of these 2 gentlemen. It was a pleasure to attend their commencement ceremony along with Principal Pat and also Lisa Marie Carter. So just wanted to congratulate them. If we could just give them a round of applause. Really appreciate them and congratulate them and their entire families on their accomplishments. Go ahead. Yeah, great. And then board, tonight in terms of my report, I wanted to share that we are continuing to move forward as a district. We're almost there. We have just over maybe 7 or 8 days left in the school year, and we are just moving forward pretty strong here. Want to finish strong as we kind of move throughout the year. One of the things, just before I get into my items, we heard tonight, I believe it was from the floor to the public, about facilities being reopened. Wanted to just share that as of last week, Wednesday, we have opened up and said that if there are people who would like to use our facilities, you need to just fill out the forms and forward them on. I think there was a question about swimming. So I know that I and Nancy have both been in touch with one of the persons from a swimming league here in the county. And then also yesterday, I was at the YMCA for a meeting with their new interim director. So just to let folks know, we are open back up. People just need to put in their information and we're willing to work with people and just kind of move them right through the process that needs to be completed. So we are continuing to move forward with our summer school planning our programming. So we again have an ESY program that will be housed at Charles Riley, and that's the extended school year program for our children with disabilities. So we certainly will have that program available. Our K-5 program will be at CER as well. At the middle school, we'll have grades 6 through 8. Grades 9 through 12 will be at the high school, and that is credit recovery. On last week, Friday, in a meeting with all of the chief school officers, I learned that our BOCES is going to be offering some additional programming over the summer as well. There are a number of students across the region who, because of COVID-19, were unable to make up all of the extra hours that they would need to do community service or to do some type of internship. And some still needed a little time so that they could actually leave the program or graduate from the program with all the necessary credentials to be able to go out, and it increases their employability. And so after hearing about it, we have approximately 55 students that would be in this boat. The costs are very minimal, but we certainly would like to open that opportunity up for our students as well. So districts have an option. They can pay for it out of their regular funds and get reimbursed for it, or they can use some of their new COVID-related funds to pay for it as well. So we are certainly interested in doing this, board. I wanted to just share that with you. As I said, we have 55 students who are in this boat who could use some extra time. It's only a 2-week time frame, if I remember correctly. Am I correct, Nancy? I believe it was just a 2-week time frame that they would need to do this. So we need to get them over there to BOCES in the summertime. But it would certainly be something to help catch the kids up. And this particular population of students, I think, need it as well. So you will be hearing more on that, but I just wanted to let you know that that is certainly an option that we have heard about as of last week. For the next school year, we are now planning. Our thought is a 5-day-a-week program. That's what we're looking for. Again, our biggest concern right now are 2 things. Transportation is of concern right now because we haven't heard from the CDC or the New York State Department of Health around transportation. At this point in time, most of my colleagues and I are planning for pretty much everything to go back to norm, right? We're planning for that option. And we're planning for a rotation option, kind of similar to what we're doing right now. I believe that this will be lessened or lightened up. Currently, if you go on an airplane, there's no seat in the middle anymore. Everybody can sit next to whomever, and you just have to wear your mask and kind of go that way. So I think that soon this will be lightened up. We've heard from the governor that once we reach 70%, vaccination rate, that he's going to open more stuff up. Today, there was some additional guidance that came out just before we got on. So things are kind of moving along. So I think we'll be fine in terms of the transportation piece. So we're planning for whether we have to socially distance on the buses or not, just in case. If we have to socially distance on the buses, then that will mean our rotation schedule will have to drop off the first group, then go out to get the next group. Currently, several of our elementary schools are coming in at different times because of the social distancing requirements on the bus. So we'll be planning for that. We have heard that the red zone process is now being released. And so part of why we had to cohort students and put them into separate groups and we couldn't bring them back like we wanted to was because of that red zone. My understanding is we are out of that zone at this time. So we're definitely, I believe, able to move closer to that 5-day-a-week piece. We are awaiting, with that said, state guidance. I can tell you that all districts have asked the state vehemently, including myself, for guidance. We don't want to wait till the middle of the summer to get the guidance and do what we did last year. We had 2 weeks to prepare a plan and open schools. So we are starting our planning process now, but we are also still waiting guidance. We're reluctant to put much of it out there until we kind of have that piece there. Coming soon, before this week is out, I'd like to share this with the public board. If you have no objection, I'd like to just let them know that we are planning for these items. We do expect in the near future to also have stakeholder feedback. We'd like to have a meeting where we ask parents and whomever from the community would like to be a part to come and be a part. That's kind of where we're at right now with planning. Tom, I think I saw your hand go up. Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, I did, Mathis, regarding our planning relative to if we did have a fallback situation to be able to implement the one-on-one or remote or distance learning as quickly, taking from what we've learned in the past. So will that be part of the plan so that
Yes.
we know if we need to press a button and turn around on a Monday and be
Yes.
ready to implement, we can do that?
Yes, that will definitely be a part of the plan. We'll also have in there provisions around COVID-19. So currently we have a hotline. We have a whole group of folks who help us with contact tracing. That will be also in there as well. So if anything comes up, yes, we will certainly have that ability to be able to switch gears, Tom, as you have described. We don't know yet about the whole virtual learning piece. Originally, we were told by the governor's office that that was going to have to be an option for years to come. And that was just a month and a half ago. And now we have heard mixed messages. One of the messages is no more virtual learning, no matter where you come from, right? No virtual learning. Everybody has to come back in person. And then that kind of got dialed back by the governor's office. And we were told, well, maybe there might be a provision. We're going to plan for every one of those options just in case, to make sure that whatever comes up, we don't have to second guess and go backwards. We will be ready for whatever option the governor provides for us. All right. Okay. All right. At our next meeting, board, what I would like to do is have some discussions with all of you. We had talked a couple of weeks back, a couple of board meetings back, about how we might want to expend these funds, the CRRSA funds, the ARP funds. Since we've had our discussions, we've been able to just kind of assess and look at what those needs are that we see in terms of catching up needs. And we'd like to come and talk with the board about that and get your feedback and things that you'd like to see happen as well. So at our next meeting, we would like to spend some time towards the end of that meeting sharing some information with you. I will also send out information in transmittal to the board, and then we'd like to just have a discussion with you. We do have some time before we have to put in our final plan, so we'd like to just sit down and just chat with the board about that. We also, just so the board has a heads up, one of the items that we do need to get done before the summer is out is we need to have a hearing around our code of conduct. Every year, every district across the state has to relook at its code of conduct to see if there are any changes that need to be made, and there needs to be a public hearing around that. So as we kind of move into July, if possible, I'd love to see it at the second July meeting. We would like to get that code of conduct hearing all set and done, if that would be possible with the board. So I just wanted to share we need to do that. And also at the July 13th meeting, I'd like to share with the board our new strategic plan. So tomorrow I have a meeting with stakeholders who are part of the strategic plan. And what we'd like to do is roll that plan out to the board, get feedback from the board, and possible adoption. So that we'd like to do at the July 13th meeting. Two other things here, one which is not on the slide. I'm sorry, Lisa, did you have a question?
Yeah, actually just have a quick informational question. I took a look at the slides that you had shared with us about the notes from the last strategic planning meeting, and on the graphs that show different, completion rates and graduation rates, one of the acronyms is SWD.
Students with disabilities.
Ah, okay, thank you.
Sure. All right. Okay. All right. Two things I wanted to just share before we end here. One is about Layton Elementary. So I've had some questions from a couple community members throughout the year. And I understand at least one of you has had a question this year or has heard of someone having questions about, is there anything that's going to be happening with Layton for the next school year? No. Just wanted to share so the public who's listening can hear that there is nothing that is planned at this time for Layton, except for Layton, we're continuing moving as we currently are in terms of status quo with respect to the school. I know that there were some thoughts around capital construction, and I think when Dean was here, they had like a time they were going to try to do something with the school as a projection. They were going to kind of, I think, move people to a different building, and there was something about the middle school moving maybe to the high school or to different areas, and they may or may not have closed down Layton. That is certainly not something that we're doing at this time. And every time I've heard that in the public, I've said to people at this time that is not something that the board has discussed, nor I've discussed, and we haven't had that discussion here at the table, in meeting. So at this point in time, we just want people to know Layton is open next year as normal, and when there is a change, certainly everybody will know that, right? We will share that with the public, and they would be apprised. Those conversations we'd be having an open session with the board. Everybody all good with that? Okay, just wanted to put that out there. And then the last thing I wanted to share tonight is around senior trip. So we do have a senior trip that is on the agenda tonight and open for your discussion. The senior trip is scheduled to go to Florida next year. And it's certainly something that I think we want to kind of think about. If the board needs to discuss it and think through it tonight, we're certainly open for discussion. I know that we've had some conversation about a direction that we'd like to go in the future, or possible directions. But the senior trip is, what happens is typically in August, they have to go out and they have to get prices from the airplanes, from the air services, basically to decide what they're going to do and bring those prices back. So the question is the direction that the board would like to go with respect to senior trip. Certainly it is up to the board. My recommendation would be that we kind of have a discussion around it so we can kind of figure out where the district, where the board would be interested in us moving in terms of how you want us to move forward with it. If we can go to the next slide there. So in our last board meeting, we also, just shifting gears now to the track, we presented some different options to the board. There was option 1, option 2, and option 3. Option 1 involved sand catcher system, which included about $100,000 worth of fees, but it had concrete curbs, form assemblies, sand catcher assemblies, metal grate mats, rubber mats, hardware kit, and a cover set with track surfacing, quantity of 4. Option 2 had pit covers, but no sand catchers, customized size inserts with track surfacing, which cost about $65,000. And then option 3 was a weighted mesh covers with sand catchers at $16,000, quantity of 4. And we just kind of wanted to look at those options and talk through a couple other things that came in transmittal today. We have some questions about this that we'd like to answer as well. Go ahead, Dan. All right, so in transmittal, we had this information here that was shared with the board from Nancy. Nancy, can you please go over this information that was in transmittal, please, with the board?
Certainly. So this information came from a email that we received from King & King, from Craig Daly. And from that information, I created this slide. And I had him break it out between equipment cost and site work. So what we're suggesting to purchase was 4 steeplechase barriers at $36,000, long triple jump pit with no sand catchers and covers, which was $50,000 plus $15,000 in site work, $8,000 for a pole vault box with lids, quantity 2, $8,000 with $20,000 in site work, international standards with extenders and pads for $20,000, pole vault mat package for $70,000, high jump mat package for $2,500, weighted track crossing mats option 2 at $3,200, and sideline mats to protect the track during game activities for $5,000. So total equipment cost was $194,700 estimated, with $35,000 in site work.
$194,000. Yes.
Well, I'm
Can I
sorry,
just-
$194,000.
There was some question if these numbers are the same numbers we've been looking at.
There's an updated slide further on in the presentation, Heather.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. So certainly if the board chooses to, as was written in transmittal, if the board chooses to purchase this equipment, with the associated site work, what we would need is a board transfer, basically, of funds. So with that information that was in transmittal, what we know is that we could transfer 123 from the Medicare reimbursement, 71,000 from the substitute bus drivers, totaling 194,700 into the athletic equipment, and 35,000 from the bus driver salaries into athletic contractual for the site. So that was in transmittal. Since then, we have had some updates. You can go to the next slide, please, Dan. Okay, Nancy, can you talk through this slide, please?
Certainly. So there's been no change with the steeplechase barriers. That was $36,000 for 4 of them. And I put in a rationale. We have not had these before in the district, so this would be a brand new purchase. The long triple jump pit with no sand catchers remain the same at $50,000 with $15,000 of site cost. There was a question from the board on option 3, which was the mesh covers. I reached out to Corey from Appel Osborne, and he said the mesh covers won't keep out the grass. The wind can still blow the sand out of the pits through the mesh covers, and they don't protect from geese and birds and other animals. So that was a change. The pole vault box with lids remained the same, $8,000 equipment cost with a $20,000 site cost. And the site work would include new concrete with new track surfacing. International standards with extenders and pads is the same at $20,000, and these are the uprights for the pole vault. The pole vault mat package is $70,000. That is for 2. We currently use 1 pole vault area, but our facilities are really equipped to do 2. And Rhonda would like to do 2 pole vault areas. The high jump mat package. This is in the previous slide. This was omitted, and that's because we were working off 2 different documents, one from an email from Appel Osborne, which Dr. Calvin had used for the last presentation, and the one that we received from King and King. So this is really an addition or a correction to the previous slide. We only need 1 high jump mat package at this time. And then Jim had pointed out that the high jump adjustable standards, which was in the previous slide, is just a $2,500 cost. And I had that in as the mat package. The weighted crossing mat options in the previous slide, I had $3,200 in there. But when I went back and I talked to Dave Christofoli, excuse me, and Rhonda, we only needed the smaller versions, the 48 by 110. The other ones were much larger and would have been more difficult and needed more people in order to roll them up and roll them down. So in this scenario, we're just recommending the $2,500 weighted crossing mats. And we are not including the $5,000 for the ones that go on the sidelines. I spoke with Corey on this, and he said they're offered, but he has had no school district that has ever used those. So the new cost for equipment is $209,000. Site costs have not changed at $35,000 for a new total cost at $244,000.
Go ahead, Dan. So this was the original transfer amount that you heard me talk about before, right? Do we, if we were to do this, you'd have to transfer some funds around. Go ahead, Dan, to the next one. But this is the new one this evening. Basically, it's just written in a different format. Nancy, can you go over where they'd have to transfer money from, where we could get money from to cover those new costs?
Certainly. So the $123,000 we can take from Medicare reimbursement and for the athletic equipment, $71,700 for sub to bus driver.
Uh-oh, she froze.
It's 6 o'clock.
Nancy? She's frozen. Okay. I'll go at it for a little bit here and see it till we can see if we can get her unfrozen there. 71,700 would have to go from the sub bus driver line and go into the athletic equipment line. The other amount here is 35,000, which would have to go from the bus driver line to the athletic contractual expenditure line. And then the last amount would be 14,300 from the TAN interest line and move over to the athletic equipment line. That would cover the full cost. If you can go back 2 slides for a quick minute, Dan. And maybe I'm just wondering if we could probably see if we can get Nancy to go to one of our other computers there for just, here she comes. Okay.
Linda has a question too.
I am so sorry. My computer shut down.
No problem. So those transfers would go to the $244,000 amount. Dan, if you can turn back to that second transfer page, and then Linda had a question.
You okay, Nancy? Yeah. Okay.
Linda? You're on mute, Linda. There we go. Okay.
Can you explain again why this wasn't included in the original building project?
Why these extras weren't included? So at the
They were not.
Why they were not? Yeah. So at the last board meeting, it was explained that when they started to put together the plans, the initial plans for the track, which was back in 2008, there was a feeling that a lot of these items would not be needed or could be purchased at a later time, because a lot of it was equipment, right? So the feeling is that they just kind of pulled this with some other things out as well. I think there were like scoreboards and the refreshment area. There was a number of things that they pulled out and just said, hey, we have an amount of equipment now that we think is okay, so we can buy it later down the line for ourselves. Does that help, Linda?
Yes.
Okay. Heather?
Yeah. Is Rhonda available to speak to any of this? It's been just sort of strange that we haven't heard from our athletic department about all of this.
Yeah, I think Nancy, or excuse me, Karen. No, I see Karen on the screen. Nancy, I think Rhonda was tied up tonight, if I remember correctly. I can't recall. Right?
Rhonda was, and actually I met with Rhonda and Dave Crisafulli on all of these items. We actually went over to the OMS track. She pointed out everything because I'm not really an athletic person. So I didn't know what some of the items were. So she showed us where they were. We talked about each of the items that Corey was recommending. And these are everything that was in the last slide were items that she said that would be beneficial to the district.
So is that, because I feel like what we're being asked to do is like us come up with a plan. Is she recommending this as a one-time purchase now, like not even over time? Because that's a huge amount.
Yes, the recommendation was, we kind of looked at everything to see, what might be there. And so, yes, the recommendation is if we can get it all now, we do have some extra amounts left over right now that we're expecting, so that would certainly be something that we can do if the board wishes to do that. Jim, I think you had a question.
Actually, it's a couple comments and one's a follow-up Linda's. According to Corey at our last meeting, a number of things that are currently being presented to us have been bought in the somewhat recent past and are in perfectly good working condition. And he even said, his words were, you could hold sectionals as long as you get the steeplechase stuff. As long as you get the steeplechase stuff, all of these mats, he said, they're about 10, actually, I think it was 2008, he said, and maybe that's where Dr. Calvin had that number, I'm not sure. But he did mention, I believe, 2008, that some of these things are in perfect condition. Some of these mats, and that's what Corey said. All right, I'm only going with, and if somebody, and I see Pam shaking her head, maybe I heard wrong, maybe he was wrong, but this is $250,000 we're talking about, which again, the number of things we were told by our architect specialist that these are perfectly good. I looked up what is our current budget for athletic equipment this year. It's $41,000. Next year, we have it budgeted past at $37,000. This is $250,000. And again, unless I hear different, and actually I would even like maybe a third opinion. All right. If Corey said something last week and I'm hearing something different this week, I'd like maybe the facilities committee to go out and look at this stuff before the next meeting or before July 15th, because this is just too much money. Just the steeplechase we don't have. All right. But I think this was one of the reasons why, and I agreed with him. Tom mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago, if we have to deal with this, can we do it on a line by line item basis? And I'm not going to put words in his mouth of why he said it, but my feeling is it's based on what Corey said about what is a replacement versus a new necessity.
Okay. All right. So Pam, you had a question, then I'll respond.
I believe, I'm really going to make a comment. I believe what Corey said was at the time that they were looking at the numbers because they needed to make some changes. At that time, the equipment was okay.
Correct.
And at that time, the equipment would never have been reimbursable. So that's why they took it out. But that's 2008. We're in 2021. Go out and look at it yourself. It's not perfect by any shape.
So, Tom, go ahead.
Sorry. No, but I heard also what Jim heard relative to that. He said there was equipment, then there was other purchase not long ago that was still good and functional. But again, that could all be in communication. And the reason I did want to itemize it was because I think there's some things that are necessities, some things to bring it up, but there are other things that are, if they're less important or can utilize what we have right now, that we should, look at it that way. At least that's my opinion, because whatever could be not retrofitted, but be reconditioned to be able to utilize now. Because some of the mat along the lines of the pole vault, it'd be nice to have two, but that's a $70,000 incurrence or $35,000 per half of that. Do we need to have two? And that's where I think bringing Rhonda in to have that discussion, a more in-depth discussion, to flesh it out a little bit more would be helpful.
Heather, you had a question there or comment?
Yeah, I do actually agree with that as well, that it would be helpful to talk directly to Rhonda, but just to play devil's advocate too. I mean, I'm really uncomfortable at the amount, but because I do think there's opportunity cost if we have extra money. But on the other side of the coin, every other sport is getting a reboot. And everybody gets to go out on their new equipment and their new this and their new that. So, the track's already getting shafted because we were only going to have one of them. And so I guess I see both sides of this, but I do think it would be helpful to talk to Rhonda about specific need.
Okay. Pam?
Rhonda, and perhaps maybe the track head coaches may be able to put give us more information that would make more sense to us also. But again, I'm just going to reiterate, we just talked about, they just came from sectionals with sectional champions. It's a team that doesn't have tryouts. There's never any cuts. Anybody can be on this team. And can I just say, 2 weeks ago at senior night, they honored 19 seniors from one team. Well, boys and girls, sorry, two teams, boys and girls. Sorry. I want to say there may have been 4 to 5 of those seniors that were new to track, that hadn't been on track prior. The other 14 were on track for 1, 2, 3 years already. So again, like Heather said, this is the one team that doesn't have anything new. They've done everything they did. The girls team and the boys teams accomplished everything they did this year without a track. They practiced on grass. Except for the days. Thank you to Hannibal District for letting our kids use their facilities. It was very, very kind of them. They're beautiful facilities for our kids to use. So we certainly appreciate that. But again, you have this one team that's probably one of the largest, never cuts any kids, and they don't have anywhere to go. Just my opinion.
Okay. Jim, did you have another comment, sir?
I'd just like to follow up by saying I support giving things where they're needed, and it's nice to have new things, but you get new things when they are absolutely necessary sometimes, or even sometimes when they're conveniently necessary. What I'm just trying to say is that we should not be looking at this as just a moment to spend because we're in the moment. And again, from my recollection before, Corey was saying we didn't recommend these because we didn't need them. And I think, again, having the facilities committee and other people go and view this, I think that would be worthwhile. The only other thing I'd like to add, and this is just, I don't know how to put this best, but whenever we talk about surplus, or as we like to call it, the fund balance, that I will never view as extra money. Hey, at the end of the year, we have extra money because it's taxpayer collected money. And it's something that we should be very cognizant about using carefully so that it's going to benefit the district as a whole, because the taxpayers have already paid that money. So I don't ever view it as surplus. I view it as money that we've already collected that we're entrusted to use in the most responsible way in the future. And that kind of comes to what our workshop was at before and what we were talking about. And we'll talk again about at our second meeting in July. And I appreciate Dr. Calvin orchestrating all of this for us so that we can really, as a board, use these monies in the best way possible. But when we talk about $250,000, we're talking about 2% of our, just no math. I'll leave it at that. It's a lot of money.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so board.
Mathis, I'm sorry. I just wanted to follow up with Jim. That I absolutely agree with everything you said about reserves and extra money. But sometimes there is an opportunity, and if we can accommodate more kids in athletics, because we have the equipment to offer more events. Also, we can share our district facilities with other schools because we're able to host more events. That's a good thing, and that's kind of where my mind is right now. And that's what I want to hear from our athletic department, is that this is actually an investment in our future. And if it really is true that we haven't purchased anything since 2008, I think that's a problem with this whole rollout of the capital project, is that so much of the planning went over so many years that some of what was good in 2008 got lost in translation over the last several years. So it may just be a factor of that, that's just been so many years.
No, I get that, Heather. And that's why if I hadn't recalled, and by my recollection, twice Corey said, as long as we get the steeplechase, we could host sectionals with our new facility and our current pads and everything else. That's my recollection. So yeah, we want to bring in other people. We want to maximize everything. We want to give things in many opportunities as possible. From my recollection of our meeting last week, I'll go back and look at the YouTube again, but Corey said we're so good we can host sectionals as long as we just buy the steeplechase. So that's where I'm confused on this.
We need Corey back, obviously, to verify his word. And then I want to see him pole vault onto that mat.
Right. And I want to see him long jump into the kitty litter pit.
Okay. All right. So board, this is a big decision. I'm sorry, Kathleen had her hand up. Kathleen?
Yeah, I just want to say, this one, if it's accurate that nothing's been purchased since 2008, again, this kind of goes back to when the capital project was passed. Some of these pictures that we saw of the buildings and what needed to be done, we need to be, every department needs to be on a schedule so that they're doing constant maintenance, so that things don't get to the point where we had to go out to the public and ask for this huge capital project. Because some of those pictures were just horrific of buildings and what was allowed to how they were allowed to get so in such bad shape. And so I think every department needs to have a plan. Just like we do with the buses, where we replace buses every year, and get rid of the old fleet. Every department needs to be doing this so that this is not happening. Because $200,000, that's a huge ask.
Okay. All right. I agree with you, Kathleen. Board, as we were completing the track, I did have some questions that came to me, at least from one of the board members, Pam. And as I shared with the board, while we were in the middle of doing this work, certainly this was a time that if there was something else you wanted, that we certainly would need to, this is a good time to do that because we're in the middle of the work. So I have no difficulty with if the members of the facilities committee would like to talk or go up and look, we can set something up before our next meeting for sure. Some of these items are not there now because there would be new things that would need to be purchased. That which is there, we can certainly show that to you as well. And as far as, so we will set that up. And then also as far as having Rhonda on, like our team on to talk a little bit about this, and Corey, we can certainly invite them back. I will also go back to the last board meeting and look at the actual meeting, the video, and send you and transmittal some of what was said there at the meeting by Corey, just to make sure that we all can have the same information about what was done at the last meeting in terms of the statements that Corey made. I'll get that for you as well, board. And then we'll just bring this back to the board at the next time. Does that sound good with everybody? Okay. All right. We'll do, board. We'll do. Okay, go ahead, Dan. All right, we had some additional questions there. There were 3 questions that came to us tonight, I believe from Jim. So we wanted to make sure we answered those questions. The first question said, can you please prepare at our meeting to present the other options from jumping pet we talked about last meeting? Option 3 was listed at $16,000 rather than $65,000 for option 2. Nancy, can you go over the answer for that first question for us, please?
Sure. So in your previous slide, there were 3 options. The first one was significantly higher than the other 2. They only do that when they're constructing a new stadium or a new track. So option 2 is the one that was we're suggesting, and option 3 is just a mesh cover. We currently have tarps that cover the sand pits, but this is a mesh cover which would not prevent anything from getting into the sand. So that's why it was not recommended.
Okay. Second question says, also in the presentation from our last meeting, listed the high jump mat package at $20,000, and then this presentation is at $2,500. The last meeting did have something called the high jump adjustable standards with steel sheet based listed for $2,500. Not sure why the discrepancy. Can you share that, please, Nancy?
Sure. So as I said in the previous slide, the high jump mat was excluded from King & King's information that was sent to Dr. Calvin and myself. That was included in the previous slide. And the $2,500, as Jim pointed out, was the correct amount for the high jump adjustable standards. So that was corrected in the revised spreadsheet.
Okay. And then the final question said, finally, when I look at the last presentation, I think that the weighted track cross mats, 3,600, and sideline mats to protect the track during game activities, 5,000, and the current presentation might be the same thing. I could be mistaken, but on the old presentation, it looks like they are option 1 and 2 on the bottom right of the table Corey presented. It also notes there that option 2 for 3,200 is not being recommended by the district. Okay, Nancy, can you respond to that part, please?
So in response to the first part, the 3,600 and the 5,000 are not the same thing. They were 2 different mats, one with varying sizes. The ones for $5,000 were to go along the track where coaches and cheerleaders and players could stand on them. That's the one, those are the mats we really don't need, and Corey has never seen them in another school district. The 3,600 one, you are correct, or the $3,200 one is not being recommended because they are very wide. And even though they're not as long as the ones that in the revised presentation, they're just too unwieldy for the grounds crew to roll up and roll down in order to get their tractors over to the lawn to mow.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions from the board before we get back, come back again for this meeting? Are there any other questions, or are we all good for this evening?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for getting all those numbers and the recommendations. It's not that I don't think anyone is pushing back on any of that. We just want to make sure we have all of the information before we
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll bring everything back, and we'll set something up again for the facilities committee before this week's out. Tomorrow we'll send out a link to see what time will work for people from the facilities committee. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, board. I'm all set for this evening.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda, minutes of the regular board meeting of June 1st, 2021. The Oswego Middle School Extra Classroom Activities Report, May 2021. Treasurer's Report, May 2021. Special Education Board Report of June 15th, 2021. And the High School Extra Classroom Activities Report, May 2021. Could I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Or second.
Okay, thank you, Kim, for the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Next is curriculum with Carrie Plass.
Good evening. I have the senior class trip of 2022 that Dr. Calvin spoke about earlier, and that the Board of Education grant authorization for the 2022 senior class to travel to Orlando, Florida at a date to be determined sometime in February or March between winter sports season and spring sports season at no cost to the district as presented. It would be funded by each senior, and there is fundraising that will occur.
Could I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
any discussion?
Yeah, I'll just say I voted no on this trip every single time it's come before me. This is not a surprise to anyone. Carrie, do you know the cost of the trip?
No, she did not have a final cost because she has reached out to Disney to get prices. She also does not have the airline flight. The reason they're trying to start now is so they can lock in reasonable airline flights. So no, she doesn't have a final cost yet.
And the reason I'm a no is because over the years I've received a lot of calls, and I've had conversations with people whose senior really felt left out of that culminating event because they just couldn't afford it, and they didn't have the family network to fundraise. Because I think if we're honest, the fundraising really involves tapping on the doors of our friends and neighbors and our families. And so if those people also don't have a lot of financial security, it becomes very, very difficult then to fundraise. So it's just too expensive. And I really think that, especially for our students for whom it's very difficult to get to the finish line, this is kind of a kick in the teeth.
I think Pam Dow had a question or comment as well.
Thank you. I sit on the bench with Heather, and I almost think that we can use the pandemic that put a break in this trip to maybe revisit what they're doing. I don't know. Let's stop doing the same old. Let's come out of the box. Let's find something a little more closer to home that all the students would be able to participate if they so choose. Maybe it's just a weekend camping trip to Darien Lake. There's a lot of things a lot closer to home that will not even be nearly that expense, that the kids can be together and still celebrate being seniors and graduation, yet every single senior could be included and they wouldn't feel like they got kicked in the teeth. I just think this is our opportunity to seize the moment and make it better for every senior going forward.
I think I see Kathleen hand up there.
Yeah, I'm with Pam and Heather on this. I'm in agreement with Heather. I mean, from the time she started it all those years ago, we need to do something that's more inclusive and that more students have the opportunity to do, not just a handful. And I know they'll say, well, it's not a handful, it's 40. That's still a handful when you consider the size of they don't all have the opportunity to do it. So I agree with Pam and Heather.
Also, can I ask a question, Carrie? If you had a student who needed a one-on-one, how would that person be accommodated on this trip?
You're talking in a one-on-one nurse?
Nurse, or their needs or special needs were such that they really needed somebody to accompany them.
I believe, and I'll refer to Heidi, but I believe maybe an adult, a parent is asked to go along. Heidi?
Yeah, we've had different situations. We've had to have an additional nurse attend for medical reasons. And occasionally we've either had a parent who would be included as a chaperone, or we've had a teaching assistant who may come as a partner with the student.
And the adults are all subsidized by the students' fundraising, correct?
That's correct. A portion for every so many students is allocated towards the offset of the chaperone.
So chaperones, like our teachers and such, they don't pay to go to Disney World.
Correct.
I think Tom had a question or comment.
Yeah, I was just wondering again if we could get more information before made this decision. Could we table this and bring it back? I know time is of the essence for her to get pricing, but and just to think about it from that different vantage point. So it could be more inclusive, could be closer to home, and have more kids involved. At least that's what I would like to see and get a little clearer view on it.
Yeah. So,
Sorry.
I'll just say I'm with Tom about getting some more information. Not having kids of an age who have gotten to this point yet or had friends to this point yet. This is new to me. If I remember, if I understood Heather or maybe it was Kathleen correctly, only 40 students attend. And we have a graduating class of probably 260, 280, somewhere in there. So I do think some information would be good. I agree with Tom on that. And I think part of it would be, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, Zeta, and actually say you have to say anything here, of course, but you're a graduating senior. You've been through this. My wonder is, how much are the students asked about what they want to do as an end of a year activity? If this is a senior trip that is a historical every year, again and again, it's kind of like these rubber stamp things we do, right? Well, we did it last year, so we're doing it again this year. And if we're doing it because of that reason, as opposed to, you know what, we polled the students and they said, we'd love to do this. And we only understand only 40 of us may be able to want or afford, because it's not always about afford. You know, some people may just not want to go or be allowed to go. I'm not sending my kid, 17-year-old kid, whatever the reasons may be. But 40 is a pretty low number. And I do think it would be interesting to know what are the students asking for? Zeta, you don't have to answer. But.
I would love to jump in, actually. I think you bring up a great point, especially concerning class participation, which has been extremely lacking in these past 4 years that I've been an officer. I mean, I've seen it firsthand, and a lot of it is actually due to people who can't afford to, who don't have those connections to do fundraisers and things like that. So I would say, what do the students want? I can't tell you because I don't know. We do not ask them. A lot of decisions, a lot of the times, are left up to a small group of students, usually the officers. And to be fair, the officers don't have a lot of weight in the decision either. So I think going forward, polling what the students want, having an open dialogue is a fantastic idea, and I support it 100%.
Okay, all right. So we can bring back. I'm sorry.
I just want to follow up on Zeta that, you know, I agree with her on that, because I think the voices that come to me are not voices that are heard very often. And so, and I know they've come to Kathleen as well. And you know, to have some way for those voices to be heard would be really fantastic. Because I don't think they're also the voices that end up in leadership positions and, you know, those places where maybe they can be heard. So I appreciate that.
So can I make a motion to table this?
Yep.
I would like to make a motion to table the senior class trip.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
And
Next.
Just to be clear, so at our next meeting, we'll come back with data in terms of actual numbers of how many go on the trips, and then also what this trip entails, and then alternatives. Did I hear that correctly? Okay. All right. We'll bring that back.
I think there was also a suggestion to perhaps poll the junior class, because it's sisters, juniors, with the understanding that if you only get 30 people responding, then that isn't really valid results.
Sure. We will do that. We will poll the class. Okay. Thank you, board. All right.
Next is personnel with Heidi Sweeney.
Okay, good evening. Starting off with our professional staff recommendations. A, leaves of absence, 3 leaves for the coming school year, 2 to serve in a second tenure area, and Judith Osetic, who will be serving as the assistant principal at the middle school under the grant designation. B, professional staff recommendation for a stationary appointment, Mallory Baldwin, Elementary at Minetto, and 2 folks at Layton, Hillary Burnell and McKenna Susselman. C, extra compensatory positions for our annual appointments for our in-service instructors as a group and as needed. D, a recommendation for some summer time for Amy Schutz for special education master scheduling work, 8 days maximum as presented. E, our extended school year appointments for both the program and also for the CSE and CPSE committees as needed for Dr. Duffy's program. And then our summer school appointments, both F for elementary, G for middle school, and H for our high school appointments. Again, all of the folks who applied as needed because we're still working through the planning of the program. And then I, an appointment for our other 3 remaining elementary school principals to be available as a substitute administrator for the elementary summer school program, again, only as needed. So that would be A through I.
For resolutions A through I, could I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, and then starting with J, our support staff recommendations. 2 folks, a leave of absence. The first, Derek Demo, to serve in a second probationary area, and the second for a leave for the end of this school year. K, probationary appointments for 3 folks, Daniel Hurlbut, custodial worker, and 2 custodian appointments, John Kimball and Michael Scheel. L, our group of summer food service for our summer school programming and our summer school meal sites, again, all as needed. And M, our few sub and temporary employees for this agenda. So J through M.
Resolutions J through M, could I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Lisa, thank you.
I can second it, yeah.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Next is finance with Nancy Squires.
And I'm sorry, before we go to finance, sorry, Nancy, can I just have one question? Heidi,
Yep.
and it's probably would be in next month's meetings. Normally, we kind of see some fall coaches so that they can work with the kids in the summer. I mean, that probably is coming to us next month.
Yes, yep,
No.
those were posted and then sent for Rhonda's consideration, and then we'll work through those in July.
Yeah, I think I saw the posting, so I was like looking, wondering where they were. So
Yes.
thank you.
Anytime.
We're just gonna school.
Yeah.
Okay. A is for annual cooperative purchasing resolutions from city BOCES. One is just the general cooperative purchasing resolution. Another one is a generic resolution, and the other one is the cafeteria supplies and food bid resolution. B is our annual agreement with First Step Universal Pre-K, and that is in the amount of $555,830. The majority comes from our pre-K grant, and there is $55,000 in the general fund for that. And C is a contract with CME Associates. This is for additional and ongoing testing over in the soil field, and that is currently estimated at a cost of $19,968.22, not to exceed $25,000. I'm going to stop right there, A through C.
Okay. Resolutions A through C, if I could have a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, Nancy, I had a question regarding the testing, and I apologize because I missed the meeting on Monday. Because I was surprised that we were having the additional testing going on. I thought we had tested and we're proceeding forward. Can you explain a little of that to me?
Certainly could, because I asked the same question at the facilities meeting. And what Craig had told me is that the contractor that won the bid has to do his own testing. So this is part of that additional testing that the contractor has to do. We're paying for it out. It's being paid for out of the capital project, but this is in addition to. So they continually do the testing of the sites as they take samples. They're not sure it's going to be as extensive, but they still have to continue their testing.
Okay, and I saw in there not to exceed 25,000. Was that correct? At the bottom, where they have to come to approval if it exceeded 25,000, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So there is a change in D. The contract with the city is still the same. There are no changes in that, but the amount that we owe them for the period of March 1st to June 30th of 2021 is actually $26,823.20 instead of the $36,782.12.
Okay, so we probably need to make a motion to amend that resolution. Is there a motion to amend that dollar amount?
Yep, so I'll motion to amend the proposal with the numbers that Nancy just said.
What? Yes. Okay. Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. E is our contract with the OCO Runaway and Homeless Youth Advocate Services. And that is in the amount of $73,964. The majority is paid from our McKinney-Vento federal grant. F is a contract for health and welfare services for our students that are attending Fulton City School District. That is in the amount of $5,953.50. And I'm going to stop right there. E and F.
Could I have a motion for resolutions E and F, please?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
G and H are resolutions to fund reserves. G is to fund the TRS reserve with budget surplus of up to $300,000, and H is to fund the unemployment reserve up to a maximum of $3 million.
If I could have a motion on G and H, please?
So can I ask a procedural thing? Rather than move them and make it part of it, can we move to remove them from the agenda? I don't see the point of bringing something to the table that we know we're not going to consider today.
Move to table them.
I would maybe table.
Well, so to table something, you first have to make a motion to put it on, right? So you only can table something if it's actually been brought to the floor. So I guess my point is, why bring it to the floor if we know we're not going to act on it?
Oh, right. I see what you're saying. You really would have maybe motion to amend the agenda.
To remove them, because if we make a motion for these, then we table it. If we come back and these numbers are different, we then must make a motion to amend them.
Yes.
So seeing how we have a whole nother workshop set up,
Yes.
It doesn't make sense to bring them to the floor with those numbers because we may not be working with those numbers.
Correct. I agree. You're right. But yes.
Jim, you can make a motion to amend the agenda to remove those two items if you'd like to.
Yes, I move to amend the agenda to remove 13G, the TRS reserve, and 13H, the unemployment reserve.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And the final one is I, which is speech services with Pemberton, and that is for our summer program, extended year program, and that's at $60 per half hour sessions.
Motion, please.
I'll move it.
Second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is the student representative discussion. Zeta?
Good evening. I just wanted to mention that the OHS Student Council has successfully nominated our next year's president, who will also be the student representative for the board next year. I hope that they'll be able to represent the needs of the student body, and I also hope you'll be able to see them in person. And even though the year is not quite over yet, it is our last full week. So I wanted to extend a congratulations to all of our student body. And I think the board is in agreement with me that we are all incredibly proud of you for making it to the end of such a unique and hard year. So yeah, that's all I have tonight.
You do speak for the board, Zeta. That is exactly how we all feel. Absolutely. And I speak for the board when I say, again, thank you for your service. I hope you tell the person who was elected, who we can't wait to meet, that they have big shoes to fill, because you've done an exceptional job. And I'm sure that person will also serve the student body well. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'd like to say that also. Zeta, agree with Heather, but also say what a great job you did on the strategic planning group, and that you did an excellent job of representing and just offering insightful information to decisions that were made, and presented yourself so well. So I'm going to say thank you for that, and I'm very proud of you for that as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now go do amazing things.
Yes. Good luck in your bright future, Zeta. Yeah, that's Zeta's part right there.
Next is items from the board. Would the board have any items tonight?
Oh, I always have items. Listen, I saw 2 amazing concerts in person this week. Amazing because these students worked remotely and then came together the night of the concert. It was like their first time rehearsing together all in person, and then both nights put on fabulous concerts. That was for chorus and orchestra at the high school level. So, you parents out there that are coming up for band concerts, you're in for a treat. It is amazing what our students and our teachers can pull together in the craziest year I hope that we ever have to go through. So kudos to all of you out there for that. A couple of things. Where are we for in-person meetings? There's an open-ended question there. And there was an announcement today by the governor that we've reached that 70%. And he's removed a whole lot of restrictions. But of course, he probably didn't get into the school district stuff. So I was wondering, no, I know he didn't. He doesn't. But yes, it was all over the news around noontime. So I'm not the only senior parent out here that's wondering if that may, and you don't know yet, does it change the plans for graduation? Because we're all hoping.
Pam, would you like me to respond to that?
Oh, if you could right now.
Yeah, so there is some new guidance that just came out around graduation. I need to get the actual form in front of me. We will put a note out sometime tomorrow to share with the public what those changes are. So if I remember correctly from the document that I read, they're saying that people can still come to the graduation and not have to mask if you've been vaccinated. But you're supposed to present a card, or else the card is kind of like on Scouts Honor. So we will be going through that tomorrow. I have a group of folks that will be meeting with us around it, and we'll share that information back with the board and with the public after we've kind of gone through and looked at it all. But that just came out. I did not hear that we had reached the 70%. That's news to me. So we've been running from place to place. So I'll look at the news tonight and see what did he say now? So thank you for sharing.
Well, no, yeah, and it's the usual that we don't really get enough information because restrictions will still be in place, like on public transportation inside schools. So yeah, there's always open end that we don't get all that info. But I guess I was curious because I was asked last night if the number of people allowed to attend graduation may change. But we don't know yet.
Very soon. It just comes at me like everything. I'm trying to be very politically correct about the governor. I will go through the guidance and I will share it right away. Things are happening every day. It just keeps coming at you. So,
And that's actually what I shared last night, that we don't know yet, and it changes every hour. So when it changes, we let people know.
Wow. Okay. We'll do.
So are you done, Pam?
Yeah, because I probably can't do the rest without crying. Bye, Kathleen. It's your last meeting.
Yeah.
We love you.
Yeah, Kathleen's on my list here. I have a couple of things. First off, make sure that the August 30th is date certain now for our board. It's going to be a public workshop where we are going to create our clearly defined board goals with the NISBA moderator. So that is date certain. July 12th has now been changed to the 13th. So we're going to meet with Mr. Zuber on the 13th. But there is still a lot of interest in some other training. One concept I had was potentially like maybe 6 meetings out of the year, or we could pick a couple meetings where we meet, you know, the hour ahead of time, or I think an hour, you'd need an hour ahead of time to do trainings kind of all along. So we're not really taking, I mean, people in this board, and Sean, I'm not familiar with your work schedule, but we have some complicated work schedules on the board already. And we have people with young families, and we just need to make sure that, you know, with this volunteer position, we are respectful to everybody, but at the same time, pursuing options to make sure that we are staying up on, you know, our part of the deal, and making sure that we're keeping up on our education as a board. So I was kind of wondering what people thought about that concept, as opposed to trying to find half days, full days. I'm finding that for the summer, I only found 2. So just wanting some feedback on that.
Sounds
Jim's
like
a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Linda, yes. Sean, would that work for you? Okay. Great. So I'll work on that. And if you want to shoot me via email, I know some people already have about some topics. Then I can work with Dr. Calvin on people that we can maybe have guest presenters to come and give us some information on that. So that's the board workshops. Our reorg meeting, Pam, you asked about in person, and I know Dr. Calvin and Karen, you guys are going to come back with potentials for. We'd really like to do that in person if we could. I'd like to meet Sean in person. I think we all would, and to be able to see people do their oaths and that kind of thing in person. Do we have an outside option or a?
So we can do both. We have an indoor option. I believe it was over at the high school cafeteria, if I remember correctly, Karen. And we can also, if we need to stream anybody in, we certainly have the ability to do that as well. If you'd like to meet outside, we can always set up tents or things outside as well. So we can do both. I do think with the, if we did the option in the cafeteria, we could socially distance everybody out with no difficulty. And I think we do pretty well there for sure.
Okay, and then we would just have to be pretty specific probably about numbers for people joining us. I know we get some press and that kind of a thing, which is nice. But so I guess for the board is thumbs up if you're okay with that plan. And then if you aren't comfortable coming, there is the option to stream in. So is everybody thumbs up okay with that plan? Excellent. Okay, so we'll pursue that then. I think probably inside is better for recording.
Yes.
Yeah.
And live streaming.
Great. It'll be great to see everybody's like three dimensions. All right. I want to take a moment to thank Kathleen. She has spent almost a decade in service to this community here on the board. She's been through thick and thin on this board. We have been through a lot of very, very difficult issues, very emotional issues. She has spent so many hours. She served as president for 3 years. Am I right about that, Kathleen? It felt like longer because they were long years. They were hard years, and she led us through with a lot of dignity and grace. I can't say enough about Kathleen and her service to our community because it hasn't just stopped with the board. She has done so much for our youth in many, many other venues. And she is just a person who has committed her whole self to the young people of Oswego. And thanks isn't enough. It just isn't. But it's all I have because we're not in person and I don't have your mug of candy that I would have liked to have given you today, which is customary. So from the bottom of our heart, Kathleen, thank you for everything you've done for this community. Okay. I knew that would be kind of emotional. That's all I have.
Any other items from the board?
Yeah, I just like to say thank you to everybody involved. This board, I think, has been a real pleasure to work with. If volunteering for a 5-hour meeting brings people pleasure, this is the best it could have been, because I've sat through a lot of board meetings and I see a lot of 7-0 votes, and I don't understand, because I think there are questions, but everybody locks in step, and I never know why, because some things are behind the scenes. But having now gone behind the scenes and seen things, and having this year, we've probably had more split votes than a lot of boards that I've seen, and I've never once had a negative encounter with this group. We agree to disagree. We're thoughtful. We share. We're respectful. And at the end of the day, we own our own decisions and we move on to the next thing to tackle. And I've really, really appreciated that about this group. The diversity of people here makes the group stronger. And everybody being willing to share and being thoughtful and considerate of each other, I've really been happy with it. So I want to just thank everybody. I will also shout out Kathleen, the years you've been here. Thank you. And a lot of people don't realize until they get into it. Sean, thank you for agreeing to join us and getting the votes. And thank you for being here today, because there's a number of meetings where we tie things up. There are a number of things on our plate. And I think it was really a good thing that you could be here today to start in these discussions. And so I look forward to working with you and having you join the group. Zeta, best of luck with everything. The sky's the limit. I know you're going to be one of the people that when you put your mind to something, you're going to accomplish it. Or you wouldn't be here right now. And so, good luck with everything. All right, that's my piece.
Thank you, Jim. Well said.
At this time, could I have a motion for the Board of Education to move to executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations and the employment history of a particular person?
I'll move it.
Second?
I'll second it.
Is there a need for a vote after executive session?
Oh,
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You may move to executive session.
Good night, Sean. We'll see you first.
Okay.